I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Friday, March 7th, 2014. French news agency AFP reports that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrived in Jordan today on an unscheduled visit to discuss Israeli-Palestinian peace efforts with Jordan's King Abdullah II. Kerry made the stopover after departing from Rome today, where he was holding meetings on the crisis in Ukraine. Kerry recently stressed the need for the U.S. to help end the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, and that time was running out when speaking to the AIPAC policy conference at the beginning of this week. Meanwhile, the Palestinians have restated their adamant refusal to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Something Israel is demanding must be part of any peace deal, and a factor that will likely appear in Secretary of State Kerry's framework agreement, which he plans to present to both parties by the end of next month. In remarks published today by the official Wafa news agency, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said there's, quote, no way he'll recognize Israel as a Jewish state and accept just a portion of Israeli-annexed East Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital. Abbas suggested that he has dealt with pressure from the U.S. in the past, referring to the bid at the UN for Palestinian statehood, and could do so again. Abbas was quoted as saying, "They are pressing and saying no peace without the Jewish state. There is no way we will not accept." Abbas is set to meet with Kerry and with President Obama at the White House on March the 17th to discuss the framework deal. The Times of Israel reports that Israel's Air Force quickly sent jets to Israel's border with Syria today after Syrian fighter planes and a Syrian helicopter were sighted in the area. Israel's Channel 2 News reported that Syrian planes were firing on rebel positions near the border, and Haaretz reported that the planes retreated after spotting the Israeli aircraft. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made his last stop in his U.S. visit yesterday at the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. The Prime Minister addressed the crowd last night and referred to a letter he was shown exhibited at the museum from Adolf Hitler with his intent to liquidate the Jewish people, a letter that was discounted and ignored. Netanyahu said, "We have paid a terrible price, that the powers of the world did not hear that warning, nor did they act on it." He said today the situation was different because of the existence of the Jewish state, whose responsibility it was, he said, to defend the Jewish people. Referring to Iran, Netanyahu said that it was outrageous that 70 years after the Holocaust, calls to destroy the Jewish state are met with silence. He said when somebody says they are going to annihilate you, you take them seriously and prepare and warn and make an issue of it. And referred to Israel's seizing of an Iranian ship earlier this week, smuggling missiles bound for Gaza. The Prime Minister concluded his remarks saying that if there is something I can say here at the Museum of Tolerance, is that we cannot be tolerant to the intolerant. He said these people are out to destroy a section of humanity called the Jewish people. We will not let them, we will expose, and we shall fight them, and we shall beat them. The Vatican is denying reports that Pope Francis may cancel his upcoming visit to Israel. Israeli media have reported earlier today, citing papal ambassador to Israel Archbishop Giuseppe Lazzarato, that the pontiff might cancel his May visit because of the ongoing labor dispute and strike within Israel's foreign ministry that could interfere with the proper preparations for the papal visit. Lazzarato told the Foreign Ministry's Chief of State Protocol, Talia Lador-Fresher, that the visit is at risk of cancellation if the preparations aren't seen to accordingly. However, the Jerusalem Post reported later today that the Vatican denied such a cancellation, citing Father Federico Lombardi, who is the director of the Holy See press office. He said that the strike may create difficulties, but for now, there is nothing further as far as we're concerned. Pope Francis is expected to conduct his Mideast trip from May the 24th through the 26th, where he will make stops in Amman, Jordan, and then Bethlehem and Jerusalem. His visit will mark the 50th anniversary of the landmark visit to Israel of Pope Paul VI in 1964. Several Ukrainians who were severely injured in the recent political clashes there are going to be transported from Ukraine to Israel. Israel Radio reported today that 9 severely wounded Ukrainians will be brought to Israel on a special plane organized by the Jewish community in Kiev and will be treated at Hadassah University Medical Center in Jerusalem and Kaplan Medical Center in Rehovot. Israel also has groups on the ground in Ukraine. United Hatzalah and Zaka rescue organizations are training Jews in Kiev's Hatzalah so that they are better prepared to respond if the crisis escalates. The two groups are working in cooperation with the Israel Life Foundation. And Jewish groups here in the U.S. have been involved in aid efforts as well. Earlier this week, the Jewish Federations of North America launched the Ukraine Assistance Fund and authorized the distribution of funds raised through the collective federations to overseas agencies. GFNA Board of Trustees Chair Michael Siegel said as this situation escalates, needs in the Ukrainian Jewish community become even more acute. He said it's critical that we maintain our commitment to provide assistance to the most vulnerable in our community and ensure our Jewish institutions are secure. Yesterday, the parliament in Ukraine's southern Crimea region voted to join Russia and to hold a referendum on whether the region should become a part of the Russian Federation. That'll take place on March the 16th. The American Jewish Committee concluded a 3-day visit to Greece yesterday, where they met with top government officials on issues of concern such as the rise of the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party. The 12-member AJC delegation, led by AJC President Stanley Bergman and Executive Director David Harris, met with Greek Prime Minister Antonis Samaras as well as other officials. They also met with the U.S. and Israeli ambassadors to Greece, as well as members of the Greece-Israel Parliamentary Friendship Committee. Harris said, "In all our meetings, we heard strong support for strategic ties with both Israel and the United States, as well as condemnation of racism, including the vile neo-Nazi ideology promoted by the Golden Dawn." The wife of Jonathan Pollard has said her husband's surgery this week was to fix multiple serious complications in his digestive system. As we reported to you yesterday, Pollard was rushed to the hospital near the North Carolina federal prison where he is serving after a decline in his health and reportedly underwent an emergency 15-hour surgery. Esther Pollard said of her husband, "His condition is worrisome. He is worn out. I'll only know more details when he is well enough to tell me." Pollard was convicted of spying for Israel and is in the 29th year of a life sentence. Thousands gathered at a recent rally outside the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, asking for U.S. President Obama to commute Pollard's life sentence to time served on humanitarian grounds. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Friday, March the 7th, live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue. And looking ahead this weekend, Sunday night, we will be broadcasting the recent addresses presented at the AIPAC Annual Policy Conference in Washington from U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That's Sunday night, March the 9th, beginning at 8 o'clock here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Friday, March the 7th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader. Shabbat Shalom.